Here's some facts. 8,000 people start an internet business every single day. Every day, 8,000 people start a business on the internet. The fact is, 90% of them fail. 90% of them fail. And they only fail for one reason. Who wants to know that one reason? Anybody want to know why people fail? Anybody? Let's try it again. Who wants to know why people fail? Because, see, it's more important that you know why people fail than whether they succeed. You want to know why they failed so you don't make the same mistakes. You see what I mean? So, the reason why they fail is because they don't have the right knowledge. Not just knowledge, but specific knowledge. Specific knowledge pertaining to the internet.
Now, let's get into it. What we are going to discover today. First of all, we're going to talk about the principle of successful internet business. The principle. I understand this weekend have been overwhelming, and after you go home, you will be kind of like overwhelmed too badly so that you can't even get started. I want you to take this principle home because the principle is so simple. You see, most of the time, the most powerful things in our life, they are the simplest. The principle of successful online business is no more complicated than 1, 2, 3. If you take nothing home this weekend, but this principle, which is not going to be more complicated than 1, 2, 3, then your time, your money, your effort is going to be worthwhile spent. And this principle will guarantee your online success. Would you like to learn that? Yes. Every single one of you, regardless where you're sitting today, every single one of you can do exactly the same as what I've done, or even better. You think a little Chinese guy like me still speak broken English today can do it big time? You can do it. Thank you. Knowledge is the only thing that you need to take you from where you are to where you want to be. I totally agree with Pat. You are all motivated, otherwise you wouldn't be here in the first place. That's only the starting point. What you need is the knowledge, is the vehicle, the tools and the resources so that you can get where you want to go. And this is what we are here for today.
Basically, I spent 15 years in Australia working on construction sites as a carpenter, and I got to the point where I hit the wall mentally, and I knew that I wanted to do something else. And even though I saw other people doing stuff, I had a bit of fear. It was holding me back, which was interesting to see the Clarkson story this morning, because that's exactly what I had going with myself. And what happened was, I call it my defining moment. And I was on a job site one day, and in Australia, as you might be aware, it's quite a hot place. And you spend a lot of time out in the sun. And I was working on this mansion in Australia, building a lot of upper-class houses. And one day I was working on this house. And across my vision came this boat. Now, I don't know a lot about boats, but this boat was longer than the block of land we were building this house on, right? So you can imagine how big this thing was. And a gentleman came down off that boat, and he was a Canadian guy. And I got to talking to him, really friendly, and I said, you know, how did you make your money? I'm pretty nosy like that. And he said, on the internet and software. And at the moment, at that point in time for me, I'd barely been even on a computer, and he could have been speaking a completely foreign language as far as I was concerned. I had no clue what he was talking about. But I had this big idea, and I went home to my fantastic, supportive wife, Amanda, and I said, I'm going to do something different. And she goes, look, I'm sick of hearing you whinge about it. Do something about it or shut up. So she didn't give it a toss, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do something about it. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sell my tools. I'm going to sell my tools and force myself to do something different. And I had to do that because here I was paying off cars, I was paying off a mortgage, I had a wife who was addicted to shoes. And so I was in trouble, right? Who guys would agree I was in trouble? Sometimes I think she's a centipede, she packs so many shoes. And so what I did was I just said, you know what, I'm going to find out something new. And I started this education process just like you guys are here today. And I started going to all different types of seminars, and we got involved in internet marketing about 4 years ago. And from those initial first 2 years, as Paul mentioned, we struggled with internet marketing a bit. We learnt a lot, we were getting some results, but nothing like we really wanted. And one day someone sent me an email and it said, hey, something about eBay. And I thought, well, I've never even been to eBay. I've never even bought something from there. What's it all about? And then, so I flicked the email to Amanda. I thought, well, let her have a look at that. So after spending 15 years on the tools and then moving towards this new process of self-education and learning, that's when we first discovered eBay, and I'll let Amanda tell her story about that part.